Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, you guys. Let me tell you, today has been an exciting day, and the excitement has not stopped. Okay. Listen, I have an amazing guest with me tonight. I want you guys to be sure to like this video, and B, I want you to share it. Share. Believe me, there is going to be some magnificent information shared tonight that you don't want someone in your network, someone that is in your family or friends network to miss. Okay. Yep. You see me looking to the side a little bit because I'm making sure that we get this shared out, because like I said, we want to make sure that again, sharing is caring. But without any further ado, I am excited to introduce to you tonight one of my newfound friends, Mr. Paul Rogers. Yay! Come on in, Paul. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm good. And if anyone was just wondering what I was doing, you might be picking up I've got the English, so I was just perfecting my curtsy. So
yes. Yes. All the way from England through Canada, and now you are here to share your awesome story with us tonight. Listen, I don't know if you guys paid attention to the sip and chat note, but Paul has got an amazing story to tell and share, you guys. And when I sat and I chatted with him just to hear all that he is, all that makes up who he is, I was just floored. Matter of fact, he told me to buckle. What did you say? Buckle my seatbelt. First, he said, "Are you sitting down? And do you have your seatbelt on?" That's what he said to me. So I'm gonna tell you what he said. Go on and sit down and get your seatbelt on, because man, has he got a story. But before we get into his story, the first thing I want to do is shout out to Lynn. Listen, Lynn Delgadio, you have done it again, baby. She is the connection queen. Let me tell you, she has introduced me to so many amazing people. She's definitely someone for you guys to know and follow. I don't know if you remember, but right before we did our brief hiatus to go into the second season, Lynn came onto the show. She shared her story. Just want to say much love to you, Lynn, for all that you do. Yep, we love you too, baby. Also, I want to take a moment, because this is Sip and Chat, and I want to say, Paul, what are you sipping on tonight, my friend?
I'm being very good. I've got no, this is not straight vodka. It's water. So, but who can tell? Eh? It's virtual.
You can tell it's all clear, right? Right. So I am sipping on my usual, my nice warm green tea. Take a sip because I'm gonna need it. But so let's go on and get started. Share with us a little bit about who Paul is.
Do you know, that's the $1 million question? And to be honest, I only really have worked out who Paul is in the last couple of years. Now, I certainly don't look 2 years old, so there's a lot of stuff which obviously happened before that. But I'd like to say that I've been reborn 2 years ago, and I'm actually really happy now that I have made contact. A lot of people going through their whole lives just thinking their name is a label and not actually getting anything deeper than that. So as we said at the top of the show, buckle your seatbelt.
Buckle your seatbelts. So I'm going to help guide just in the beginning, and then I'm going to let you take it on from there. So one of the things that you said that interested me the most and made me say, what, was you were a very successful commercial lawyer, and you were not happy.
No, I mean, I followed the herd, and the herd says, go to school, do well there, go to university, do well there, get a good job,
Yeah.
off you go. And I got sort of 10 years in, and okay, I was at the top of what I could do. I was a successful partner in a commercial law firm. I had all the trappings of wealth, but I was so unhappy, and worse still, stuck. I
Yeah.
couldn't get out of it, and I didn't know why, because the happily ever after never seemed to arrive. It just sort of
Yeah.
like petered out halfway through, and I was like, well, what next? And they're like, no, yeah, that's it. And like, seriously?
Right.
So I managed to unstick myself, which is kind of cool because I had a hobby, and it was kite surfing. I wasn't actually particularly good at it, but it was something I really liked. So I thought, I'm going to quit the law and the law firm, and I'm going to take myself off and be a kite surfing instructor. So it's kind of like the polar opposite. So
I was about to say, I actually, when you said kite surfing, I was like, what is kite surfing? Well, like, it's so many different water sports, you know what I mean? But in looking up exactly what kite surfing was, I was like, man, I can understand how this can truly feel freeing. Like, I'm like, I can see how this can be peaceful and freeing all at the same time, especially when you were feeling trapped and in a box, at the law firm.
It's right. I mean, I sort of got up from my box of a house, drove along in my box of a car. It was a very pretty car, but it was a box to a box where I worked in. And it just seemed like my life was a whole series of boxes.
Yeah.
But when you get out there and it's the ocean and there's no noise because there's no power, you're using an invisible force, the wind, and you harness the wind, you don't control it. And at that point, I mean, the speeds, the heights you can jump, it's just pure living.
Yes. Look, I love the water anyway. You know what I mean? Because it's just so peaceful. Like, to me, water is just very tranquil. Like, nothing is more peaceful to me than like when I go to the beach, sleeping with the window open, just to be able to enjoy the sounds of the water. So I can only imagine how that felt being on the water. Like, I love jet skiing too. So like, being on the water in a sport is just even better because you're there and you're one with the water. If you don't fight it and you become one with the water, that's a whole nother listen. Becoming one with the water is a whole nother lesson. But we're not gonna go there right now. So you became a kite surfer, and where did that lead you to? Because that wasn't the end of finding your authentic self.
No, I mean, that was kind of like the first time I really listened to my heart rather than actually going with my head. So that was kind of like my first taste of it.
Yeah.
And without really actually trying, I suddenly found that I had a kite surfing school in England and one in the Caribbean. And it kind of just happened by accident because I just chased the wind. And so that happened. And then suddenly I became an international kite surfing school owner. I was like, well, okay. And it was really nice because, the Caribbean is, in certain places where I was in the Cayman Islands is quite expensive. And people save up all year to go there.
Right.
And for 1 week. And I'm there you don't make a lot of money kite surfing, but I get to see that surrounding all day, every day. So that's when it really started to sink in that actually what you do and where you take yourself by following that will take you a lot further than if I just was bashing away, saving up for 1 week of sun, if I listened to my head. So that was kind of like an awakening anyway. I also got with it, as you can see, dreadlocks. This was not a commercial lawyer look, I can tell you now. And we were talking before, and it's that kind of growth is really important. I thoroughly believe you never stop growing.
Right.
And I'm listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he says that every cell in your body replaces itself after 7 years. So there is nothing left of you 7 years ago. You are now the product of that. So it's not such a big thing to think, hey, why can't we change?
Right.
So that was going well. Unfortunately, like most Hollywood stories, there's a villain, and my villain decided that it was far too much fun and I should leave, which I then had to. So we arrived in Canada, my wife and myself. She's a Quebec girl. People say, well, why you end up in Canada? And I said, for the only real reason, for a woman.
That's exactly what he said. He said that's the only real reason you move is for a woman. I said, oh, okay. It's good to know.
So then what happened after that was we got a job working on an native Indian reserve up way up north in Quebec. And that was a complete eye opener because it's a real different life.
Yeah.
And it's far more earthy and, authentic. And, you can really buy into that.
Right.
And if that wasn't enough, I then had 2 massive alarm bell wake-up calls. First of all, I was diagnosed in 2014 with skin cancer, which is devastating. And any type of cancer it's just as equally as devastating. The little fellow decided that it was a melanoma, that it was far too much fun to run up into my lymph nodes, which is like the telephone exchange for your body.
Right.
So I had a dissection, which is very similar to the operation ladies have for breast cancer. And I know my fellow celebrity here has been involved very much in that arena. So that was kind of my first real big hello, and that took it. I thankfully am 5 years clear and counting, so that's the big thing. But that was kind of like the starter to the meat and gravy, which is this is the buckle your seatbelt moment.
Yeah.
I was driving with my family in North Quebec. It's 2018. I had my son in the car. I had a beautiful white husky Malamute and my good self. And we were driving back in March, lots of snow. And we went over an unmanned railway crossing and a train hit the car. And it destroyed the car and us.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I woke up 10 days later in hospital. I didn't know who I was. In fact, I didn't know who I was for months and months. And we started the show with, who is Paul Rogers?
Right.
And people called me that. They could have called me Susan for all I care, because I didn't actually.
It didn't have nothing to identify with.
No, it was. And what I did is I effectively learned. I was like, well, if I say yes to that, they seem to be, oh, that's fine.
Right.
But, it's very bizarre to effectively lose your own identity so much that you have no idea what it was.
But I want you to put a pin right there, because you lost your identity to a train accident.
Yeah.
But there are many of us who lose our identity simply in everyday life, in people pleasing and trying to be what others would have us to be, rather than who we authentically are at our core, right? I just want you to put a pin in that. So let's go on with your story.
And I think it's a really good time to pause, because trauma, of which that effectively is, isn't just limited to the military, the brave soldiers and service people of that. It happens everywhere. Mm-hmm. And trauma is trauma. There's no, oh, mine's bigger or less than that. In emotional, physical, mental, COVID is a trauma. So people are going to come out of the other side different to when they went in.
Yep.
And this is the start to see the silver lining, that actually you start to take a journey inwards, because we've kind of been forced to do that. The whole external validation of buy this, buy that, buy the other. Well, no one's been open to do that. So
Right.
that whole crutch is gone. And I have embraced it as a very much a learning experience. And it's just, and I encourage anyone to sort of dive into themselves, because you are your CEO of yourself.
Yes.
There
I
is
like
no,
that.
and there is no one who knows you. You're an expert of yourself. I train people for public speaking and things, and I say to them, there is not one single question that you can be answered about you that you won't know the answer to, because you're the expert. And it's not without its difficulties looking in. I wrote a series of books when I was hardly here, mentally.
Right.
And my first book was actually about how to develop self-compassion. So that's where my journey started for myself. And the idea actually came from my doctor real early on. She said, you know what, Paul, you're going to have to you have to develop some self-compassion. And I remember at the time feeling a bit disappointed, because I was rather hoping she'd just prescribe me some pain meds or something.
Right.
So it would have been a bit difficult going down to the pharmacy and said, can I have a couple of bottles of that self-compassion, please? Because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have it in stock. So, but then I thought, well, actually, she's on a point, and it really does work. I mean, it's the simple things, but it then starts you on a journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you start respecting yourself. And when you cut with self-respect, your ego starts to take a back seat. You actually are allowed to step forward for the beautiful person that you always were before it all got clouded up. And everyone's saying, oh, you should go back and embrace your inner child. My inner child, when I was at school, was busy looking out the window. And I wasn't concentrating. People were like, Paul, you need to concentrate. It was even written on my report. But I was mostly dreaming up or imagining something amazing. So from a very young, early age, we're told, look, focus here. But we need the dreamers. We need the big picture thinkers.
Yes.
And we need to, any trauma or pain is an opportunity for growth. And we're all hurting at the moment in various ways. There is not anyone who's not got pain. It's a question of how you use it and what you do with it. And no one can tell you that. You just have to actually think, okay.
And I was going to say, I'm going to put a pin right there, because that's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm sorry, but I don't know who to credit it to. I've heard it from multiple places, but that is, life is 90% what happened. I'm sorry, 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do about it. And it's not minimizing anybody's experience. It's just saying that at some point you have to make the decision whether you're going to forgive inwardly as well as outwardly and move forward, or if you're going to be held captive by those experiences. Not all of them are majorly traumatic, and it's not to minimize not to minimize anybody's thing that's been holding them captive, whatever it is, right? It could have been abuse. It could have been just low self-esteem, but there's something that's been holding you captive. You could be self-sabotaging. I don't know, but it's not to minimize or maximize anybody or make it, like you said earlier, doesn't make anyone's pain or trauma any less important than the other person, because I believe that we are each uniquely made. And we each go through different things. And one thing that I always say is, my blues ain't your blues, but it doesn't mean that what I'm going through is any less painful to me than it is to you. You know what I mean? And so at some point, the point of forgiveness, I like the self-compassion, because a lot of times we are nailing ourselves consistently to the cross and not giving ourselves, it's okay, it's okay, but not necessarily giving ourselves room to heal and room to forgive ourselves and realize that we are not perfect individuals. We sometimes make mistakes. We just have to learn from what went wrong and then correct that and move forward.
Very, very powerful, and I totally agree. And what I say when I talk to people is, you may not be responsible for the event, but everything that happens after that, that is something you are responsible for.
That is you.
And it's at that time when strengths you never had are revealed. And this is not uncommon. We see when mothers run into the road and lift a car off a child on, or something like that, and people do these brave things without thinking about it. They're not blessed with any more physical power or strength than us, but what they are blessed with is the ability to find what the strength is and use it. And you have to make a decision. You have to decide, am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a victor? And, there are two roads at every turn you make. Viktor Frankl, who was in the concentration camps in the sort of the Holocaust, he said that there's always this silence between an action and your response. And in that moment, you have that decision to react or actually respond. It takes exactly the same time. So somebody disses you, somebody sends you a bad email. Reaction is, right, I'm going to boo up. That's a reaction. Think, okay, they may not be having a very good day.
Right.
That's the response, because you're doing it from a place where you are not being dragged around by your emotions.
Right.
And social media is really, it just speeds everything up.
Yeah. And it's a lot of reactions going on. A lot of reaction going on.
And it's contagious, because fear spreads so quickly. You put good news and bad news as at the starting point.
The bad one is going to take off.
It's going to boom. When you're like, the good news is like, can we run? Yeah. And you're like, yeah, the gun's gone. And he's like,
you start moving.
It's like, okay. Look. And then he starts running. Like, So things like this is the jet fuel for the good news. And if we all band together and keep concentrating on this and responding rather than just
reacting,
and the shiny object syndrome, then together we could build something so wonderful, and be somewhere where we're proud to be. The outer world is actually just a reflection of our own inner perceptions of it. So it kind of depends how you look at the world. There's, you heard this phrase, rose tinted glasses. Well, okay. Is that so bad? I'm not saying go off in la la land, but there is a certain way of looking at an event. The classic is you draw a 6 on the floor. One person says it's a 9. The other person says it's a 6. So one event and you get 2 different outcomes.
Yeah.
So there's always a choice. Always.
I like that. And it's so true. It's and the lens that you choose to look through definitely dictates how you respond. And take it a step further with the law of attraction. And the lens that you're looking at will also determine what you continue to receive. Because if you're looking at it from the negative perspective, you're going to always see the negative in everything. You could win $1 million and you would find a way to be negative about the $1 million, right? But it's all it controls your perception and perspective, as well as what you continue to see going forward and how you see it, what lens you're looking at.
And you're absolutely right. And I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Being run over by a train kind of does that to you.
Yeah.
um, and so I really do believe that what energy you put out or vibrate on, you will attract that same energy back. So let's take a little experiment here. Everyone who is watching this and who it appeals to, they're on the same vibrational frequency as we are, because if not, they wouldn't be here. So without knowing, that's what we're putting out. And once you realize you have that type of control, it's hugely empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's one thing that I know, because our time is starting to wind down, but there's one thing that I definitely want to go back to, because we kind of left them on a cliffhanger. Like, we organically went somewhere else, right? And so we left them hanging when you said my family and I were hit by a train, and my wife and I was basically in the hospital, not knowing who we were, for about a good 10 days, and yours was longer. But there were two other beings, Lil Being and Fur Baby, in the car. So let's bring them off the cliff and let them know what happened.
Absolutely. No, as actually you said, I had a furry angel in the car, which was my beautiful white husky Malamute and my little 2-year-old at the time. And I was told by the firefighters that on the impact, my beautiful, brave white husky Malamute had jumped over the back seat to land on my wife, who was sitting next to my son. And they said for sure, if he hadn't have done that, they would have been killed. In fact, my little boy, his only injuries, he had this little tiny scratch where the dog clipped him. So he looked like Harry Potter, the child who lived. But my dog didn't make it. And so he sacrificed himself with a complete disregard. And what that tells me is that it doesn't matter how much destruction you are sitting in, how dark it may seem, that there is always an alternative light, something of beauty, something just of pure love, if you're willing to look enough for it. And so I never got to thank him. So I've written some books which I've dedicated to him, because he is my white wolf, and as far as I can say, a hero of that tale.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I don't know about you guys. Listen, I have tremendously enjoyed having you sit and chat with me tonight, Paul. Great conversation. So easy to talk to. Love our vibe. Can't wait to see, because there is more that T. Lynn and Paul will be embarking on together. So stay tuned for our next adventure. But I am so grateful to you for coming and openly sharing your story with us tonight. I hope that someone that has been watching, it's always my intention to bring forth information to my viewers that will help you along your journey of self-discovery, your journey of embracing your authentic self. There is nothing more freeing than being able to live and to walk in your authentic path, to be your authentic self and walk in your authentic path. There's nothing greater than that. I'm telling you, being in your purpose is so freeing. And so my goal each week is to bring forth guests that are willing to share their stories and their journeys on discovering and being their authentic selves. Paul had a phenomenal story. It took him to go through going from being a lawyer to being a kite surfer, down to being literally hit by a train, to discover what his true authentic path was. Now he is a life coach, living, breathing, and sharing his story and the lessons that he learned from this traumatic experience. I am grateful to you for sharing. I hope someone that is watching tonight has gotten what they needed, the encouragement and inspiration they needed to continue to walk their path. I always say to you guys, be sure to like, love, and share this broadcast. Listen, there is someone else out there that needs this information. T. Lynn doesn't know them yet, but guess who does? You do. And the only way they'll get this information to help them on their journey is for you to share. Sharing is caring, right? Also, want to remind you guys, please check us out. Go and subscribe to our blog at recognizingtherealme.com. That is why we do Sip and Chat, because that's my journey. Recognizing the real me is my journey to doing just that. And so I'm sharing that. Sip and Chat is an extension. And go be sure to like, love, and share that as well. It's always an encouraging word. But Paul, before we go, is there anything that you want to leave the viewers with tonight?
I just love what you said there. And I really believe that people can find their authentic self, and it's your calling. So embrace it. So
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So grateful to you. So grateful. Can we give Paul a hand? Go ahead. For those of you, he can't hear you, but I'm gonna give him the sound for you. Yeah. All the way from Canada. Yes. By way of England and the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
We have Mr. Paul Rogers. Make sure you go check him out. He's on LinkedIn at Paul S. Rogers, and his website is www.takeactionacademy.ca. Go check them out, you guys. Thank you, Paul. I so appreciate you. You guys, remember, today is a great day to make a difference in the lives of those around you. I'm Lynn Tate, and this has been Sip and Chat. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.